Hi there, as always, here's our story recap for this week. So I hope you enjoyed the story again, and remember to stick around until the end where I'm going to ask you some questions just to make you think a little bit more about this week's story. So enjoy.
I love today's story because it shows us that Jesus didn't just come to this earth to save people who are good and kind. It's nice to be good and kind, but actually we need to realize that all of us sometimes do things that are wrong, and actually that doesn't stop us from being part of God's family. In fact, as you'll see in the story, Jesus says that that is exactly why he came, to save us, people who do things that are wrong. But let's have a look at today's story, shall we? Now, some of the pictures in today's story might not look quite how they did at the time of Jesus. They've been updated a bit to make it look a bit easier for you to understand some of the things that are going on. But let's have a look. Here is Big Zach. Wow, look at him. He's throwing money around. Doesn't he look like a generous, kind and happy person? Everyone looks like they want to be his friend, but that wasn't how it always was for Big Zach of Jericho. You see, Zach's name was actually Zacchaeus. It's quite a long name. You don't hear it that often nowadays, but he was called Zacchaeus. And, well, we don't know whether Zacchaeus really went to school in the same way we do, but if we did, his school picture would probably have looked a little bit like this. Can you spot Big Zach there? That's right, there he is, right down at the front. You can spot him because, well, actually, he's so small compared to everyone else. You see, that was Zacchaeus' problem. The Bible tells us that Zacchaeus was quite short. And I wonder whether, as might happen to you if you're a bit short as well, perhaps people pick on you. It's not nice when people pick on you, is it? But often people will try and pick on anything they can to pick on you or make fun of you. And I wonder whether back at school people would have said, "Ha ha, shorty, shorty, Zacchaeus is a shorty," or something like that, which isn't a nice thing to say at all. It's a really horrible thing. And it would have made Zacchaeus feel really, really, well, sad. But because of what happened to Zacchaeus when he grew up, I wonder whether it didn't just make Zacchaeus sad, but I wonder whether it also made Zacchaeus feel a little bit mad. And eventually, Zacchaeus decided that he was going to get even. You see, Zacchaeus didn't have any friends, and so I wonder whether Big Zacchaeus decided, well, if I don't have any friends anyway, then I might as well grow up to do a job where the person who does that job doesn't have any friends. Because if I don't have friends anyway, then I might as well do a job like that, because even if I haven't got lots of friends, I can at least have lots and lots of money. You see, the Bible tells us that Big Zach grew up to be a tax collector. Now, tax collectors aren't bad people, but they were back in Zacchaeus' time. You see, tax collectors in Zacchaeus' time were very, very greedy. You see, they had to collect money for the king, but they wouldn't just collect money for the king. They would say, okay, I'll take 1 for the king and 2 for me. I'll take 1 for the king and 3 for me. They would always take more than what they were meant to take. They were essentially robbing the people that they were collecting the taxes from, and that made everyone else sad, and it meant that tax collectors didn't have any friends, but Zacchaeus didn't care because he didn't have any friends anyway. And so actually he was quite happy because he was rich, and everyone else had to pay him money that they owed to the king. You see, Zacchaeus had a bit of a problem which I call eye disease. Not these kind of eyes, but this kind of eye. A great big letter I right on his heart. You see, Zacchaeus would see things and he would say, I want that, and I want it now. And he would just take whatever he wanted. And sometimes we're a bit like that, aren't we? It might not be that we just take things that we want, but actually that eye disease is the same when we just do what we want to do rather than what God wants us to do. And actually it causes a great big problem because it stops us from getting to know God. It stops us from being part of his family, and it stops us from one day getting to be with him forever. And I wonder whether that started to play at Zacchaeus, because you see, he realized he didn't have any friends here, but I wonder whether he also realized that he wasn't going to get to be with God forever, and so wouldn't have any friends after this life either. I wonder whether that's why this one day he decided to head out to see the person who was visiting his town. You see, there was a lot of excitement in his town. Everyone was so excited because Jesus was coming to town. So Zacchaeus headed out to the middle of town to go and see Jesus just like everyone else, but there was a problem. You see, Zacchaeus, we said, isn't it, was really, really short, and well, everyone else was really big, and so he couldn't see through the crowd. He might have tried to jump up and down, perhaps he tried to ease his way around, try to squeeze through people, but because nobody liked Big Zac, they weren't going to let him through. So what was he going to do? He really, really wanted to see Jesus. He knew that Jesus could change his entire life. And he wanted to see him. He was so, so desperate. So he did something that no man would ever do back in those days. He actually went and he climbed up a tree. I wonder whether those same people that had made fun of him before made fun of him now. Shorty, Zacchaeus is a shorty. Look at him. He's got to climb up that tree by there. They didn't like him at all because of the things he'd done that are wrong. But Zacchaeus was happy because he was up the tree and he could see Jesus. And he was watching as Jesus got closer and closer and closer and closer. You see, Jesus seemed to be coming right up to the sycamore tree where Zacchaeus was sat. Why was Jesus coming to the tree where he was? He wanted to see Jesus, but he wasn't so sure whether he wanted Jesus to see him because of all the things he'd done that were wrong. But Jesus came right up to the tree. He looked up at Big Zac and he said, Zacchaeus, come down out of the tree. I want to go to your house to have some tea. Zacchaeus couldn't believe it. He was so, so happy. No one ever wanted to be his friend. No one ever wanted to know him. But Jesus did. You see, even though Jesus knew that Zacchaeus had done things that are wrong, Jesus still wanted Zacchaeus to know him and to be his friend. Zacchaeus jumped straight down out of the tree, and all the other people were probably standing there a bit like, why has Jesus chosen him and not us? Well, we're good people. We do good things. Why has Jesus chosen Big Zac who does things that are wrong? But then they saw something had changed within Zacchaeus. The greedy Zacchaeus, who they'd always known, the tax collector who always took all of their money and stole from them, suddenly turned round and he said something very different. And it was all because he'd come to know Jesus. You see, Zacchaeus turned round and he said to the people, if I've ever stolen from anybody, I'm going to give them 4 times more back. And I'm going to give half of my money to the poor. The people would have thought, what on earth is going on here? But you see, it was all because he'd come to know Jesus. Because you see, Jesus, just a little while after this, was actually going to go and die on, well, a cross. And he was going to die for all of the things that Big Zac had ever done that was wrong. But not just the things that Big Zac had done that were wrong, but all the things that you and I have done that are wrong, so that anybody could turn to him and say they were sorry and be forgiven. You see, that eye disease I talked about stops us from getting to know God, but Jesus took that upon himself on the cross, is what the Bible calls sin, so that we could be forgiven. You see, we might not do things as bad as Zacchaeus, but we all do things that are wrong, don't we? And we all need to be forgiven. And that can only happen by putting our trust in Jesus. By saying we're sorry for the things we've done, putting our trust in him. And then he says we can be part of his family and one day get to be with him forever. The crowd looked at Zacchaeus, looked at all that was going on, and they were really confused. But then Jesus said, salvation has come to this house. Zacchaeus is now part of my family forevermore. And the people were probably still a bit confused. And so Jesus said the name that we're talking about today. He used it for himself. He said, for the Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost. You see, Jesus was telling them that he came for people like Zacchaeus. People who know that they've done things that are wrong. Rather than those who just think that they've been good all the time, but actually have still been doing things that are wrong. Jesus said, Zacchaeus, he was saying to them, look, Zacchaeus knows that he's done things that are wrong, but actually he also knows that he's been forgiven. Zacchaeus then was so happy. He took Jesus back to his house, and I'm sure he threw a great big party because he was so happy, because now he knew Jesus. And it's that line that Jesus said, isn't it? For the Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost. See, what Jesus was trying to tell us is that all of us are lost. All of us have done things that are wrong. Maybe not as bad as Zacchaeus, but we've all still done things that are wrong, and we all need to be saved. And he, Jesus, the Son of Man, what Jesus was saying about himself, wasn't he? That he is God, but also man. And he needed to be both of those things to be able to come and live a perfect life as a man, but then die on a cross to be able to take the punishment for the things that you and I have done wrong. Because only by being God could Jesus actually take our place by living that perfect life and doing that for us. And he did that so that we could become part of his family, just like Zacchaeus did. And what we need to do to know that is to turn and put our trust in him. And he said if we do that, say we're sorry for what we've done wrong, put our trust in him, we can be forgiven and be part of his family forevermore, which is the most amazing and incredible thing that can ever happen to anyone. And if you want to know more about how you can do that, then always feel free to message us. We would love to tell you more about how you can put your trust in Jesus and become part of his family forevermore.
So I hope you enjoyed that story as much as you did the first time, if not even more. So here's a couple of questions for you to think about this week. Now, we don't know because the Bible doesn't tell us, but I said in the story, that Zacchaeus might have been picked on because of being small. Now, it's never right to pick on somebody. It's never right to be mean to somebody. But if we see somebody being picked on, what can we do to help them? Because that's the right thing to do, isn't it? What can we do to help somebody when we see them being picked upon, for whatever reason? And then, in the story, we saw that Zacchaeus was changed. So how was Zacchaeus changed when he met Jesus? And the final one then is, Jesus said that he came to seek and to save the lost. Now, we're all lost because we've all done things wrong, just like Zacchaeus. So what do we need to do in order for Jesus to save us and for us to become part of his family? So a couple of questions there for you to think about. I hope that you enjoy thinking about those questions, talking about them with your mum or your dad or whoever's in the house with you. And if you're unsure about any of them, don't hesitate to message us and we would love to help explain to you what we think the answers are. So I hope you enjoyed this and I hope you have a good summer and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye.